Hi, this video is about choosing an SSD. It's a pretty simple guide which covers the basics, helping you to choose something proper if you don't know even what that is. Not the memory types or controllers, basic things. Let's get to it. First of all, what is an SSD? It's a solid-state drive, an alternative for a hard disk, which doesn't have any mechanical moving parts, which makes it noiseless, faster and more reliable than a regular hard disk drive. Don't get me wrong, HDDs are something entirely obsolete and buying them doesn't make any sense for a regular everyday user. But sometimes, in some particular cases, they still can save you a huge amount of money. Like video making, when you have to store a huge amounts of data, like dozens of terabytes. In any other case, just buy an SSD. Let's get to the straightforward examples, and here's one from our old video. Here's an old laptop with a hard drive launching Windows. See the time? And that's the time of launching an old but great MMORPG. And here's the same laptop with SSD. Quite a cheap one. Windows launch time, game launch time, and don't forget this laptop is a 12-year-old antique. The results don't need any comments. Also keep in mind that if you move the laptop or even hit it while copying the files, these files might get corrupt and the hard drive may fail entirely. SSDs will just proceed working without any issues, to a certain point of course. So SSDs are better in every single way. So the first question is, where do you want to put it? There are several different designs, but predominantly you'll need either 2.5 inches or M2. In most cases, all the modern laptops have M2 slot, because 2.5 SSDs are just too big. That's why 2.5-inch SSDs are predominantly for full-fledged PCs nowadays. But almost every modern motherboard has an M2 slot, just because M2 SSDs are faster. Anyway, no matter how old your laptop or PC is, you'll find a suitable SSD for it. So dive into the manuals for your laptop or for your motherboard if you have a PC to understand which SSD exactly you need. Here's how 2.5-inch looks and here's how M2 looks. The next important thing is M2 interface. The slot is the same, but speeds differ, and by a lot. In simple words, the higher the numbers in the name of it, the faster it will be. But here's quite an important thing about it. You can have the fastest SSD in the world, but the speed of it will be limited by your interface on your motherboard, and vice versa. What I'm telling is, let's say you have a PCI Express 504X SSD and you plug it into your PCI Express 302X interface on your motherboard. You won't have speeds exceeding, let's say, 2 GB per second, best case scenario. Again, and vice versa. So, your speed is limited by the weakest link in that chain, like a bottleneck. Capacity. If your PC or laptop exists only for office tasks like web browsing, Microsoft Word or Excel, etc., etc., the bare minimum you should look at is 120 GB. And that's really a bare minimum. 240 will be better. If you're using your PC or laptop for gaming too, occasionally, your choice would be 500 GB. But if you're into some huge story-driven modern games, several at once, you should buy at least 1 TB of storage. The size. It matters despite what people say, and you'll have to look into the manuals for your hardware again to know it. Of course, I mean the M2 ones. Sure, you can do some sketchy stuff with duct tape if you have a shorter SSD than you need, which you shouldn't do. But if it's too long, you can't really do anything about it. So you better check that thing before you wreck that thing. I was talking about laptops and PCs, but gaming consoles need SSDs too. And there's a separate filter for compatibility with PS5. So if you need one for your console, please use it. NVMe. SSDs with it are faster than SSDs without it. That's in simple words. If you want one, just make sure your motherboard of your PC or your laptop must support NVMe too. Trim. In simple words, this feature makes overwriting data much faster, so if you delete and download lots of stuff, you'd better have it. If you don't, you won't feel any difference. Radiator. It's about full-fledged PCs. SSDs produce a lot of heat, so they need a radiator to disperse that heat. Some motherboards do have it and some don't. If your particular motherboard doesn't have it, you'll definitely need one. SSD lighting. An SSD without lighting shouldn't even be considered an SSD, especially in laptops where you can see it better. That was sarcasm, just saying. But if you make a build that shines brighter than a Christmas tree, it's a great option to add more lights with more colors. Lifespan, which is given in TBW. That's the amount of data your SSD is guaranteed to handle in its lifetime. The keyword is guaranteed in this particular case. What does it mean? When you hit the given TBW of, let's say, 250 terabytes, that doesn't mean your SSD will just explode. No. But the bigger this TBW is, the longer your SSD stays alive. Ha 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 ha, staying alive. But what about brands? Well, there's Samsung. Their SSDs cost a lot, but probably that's the best SSD you can possibly buy. And no, Samsung didn't pay me anything for that statement. They could though. Also, there's Kingston, which is the people's choice, because the quality is almost as same as Samsung, sometimes even better, but the prices are much more reasonable. Also, Kingston didn't pay me anything for that statement, and they could though. And then there's everything else. Don't get me wrong, there are absolutely fantastic, amazing SSDs of other brands. Also, there are some straightforward garbage ones. So if you are kind of short on a budget and want to save some money, just read reviews for every particular model of every particular brand. And that's it. If you still have got any questions, feel free to write them down in the comments and you'll definitely get a reply. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel because we've got plenty of useful stuff to share. See ya!